South Point offers all the types of entertainment you'd expect at a first-class Las Vegas resort. Did you know our 400-seat showroom is one of Las Vegas's top destinations for live entertainment? Enjoy live performances by classic Vegas entertainers, bands, and today's hottest comedians, plus a rock and dance floor. You can also enjoy live entertainment at the Grand View Lounge, where you'll feel all the vibes of old Las Vegas. Enjoy the music, and if you love to laugh, don't miss The Dirty at 12:30, our very own free comedy show, every Friday night at 12:30 a.m. in the Grand View Lounge. The Dirty is 100% free, so arrive early. Go to southpointcasino.com or call the box office at 77136 for today's performances at the showroom and the Grand View Lounge. When you're ready for your favorite cocktail, stop in and unwind at one of our 7 specialty lounges. There's a bar around every corner, because you're in Vegas, baby. South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Welcome in. It's Sports by the Buck here on a Thursday morning. I'm Jeff Parles. Boy, we just had a moment of panic in the studio right before we're on the air. But you know what? That moment of panic it came and it's long gone now. So we're happy to be with you here on a Thursday morning. I've even done that shot in eons. We know I'm alone. Come on now. Ryan, don't be stealing Sean's move now. Come on. That's honestly, our friend Sean, who's on audio here today, should have trademarked the move. In all honesty, really. But good show here today. A lot going on. We begin our 5-day stretch of unbelievably fun, high leverage football games starting tonight in Miami. We'll get to that in a moment. But today, because yours truly doesn't know how to schedule a show properly, we have 2 guests. Thankfully, they're not at the same time. Our friend Danny Burks at 9:15, Tom Viola's at 9:30, Odd Shopper on DB, Viola, of course, of Unabated, so we'll have both of them throughout the show. We'll get their thoughts on today's games, on this weekend's games, on NBA games, because remember, we know the rule. If I make a pre-flop NBA bet, Ryan McCormick gets to walk over here and smack me in the head. So we're going to try to at least get till April on that at this point. But I'll give my thoughts on that game last night where, boy, I guess we got to take the Cleveland Cavaliers seriously, don't we? I think we got to take them beyond seriously at this point. At only 32-4. It's pretty good, right? 32-4, halfway home. Pretty good. On their way to get the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference as they beat the Thunder last night. Those 2 teams, by the way, played twice in 8 days. As well expected. Cleveland and Oklahoma City, the centers of the basketball universe right now in the NBA. All right, let's go to tonight's college football game. That's why most of you are here this morning. And we begin the 2 semifinals here in this 12-team bracket. Of course, we have 3 through 6 by the regular season. By the bracket seeding, we have all teams that didn't have byes, 5 through 8, with Notre Dame, Penn State, Ohio State, and Texas. And we start tonight in Miami, the Orange Bowl, the site of semifinal number 1. Notre Dame, Penn State, 7 versus 6, 5 versus 6 in the actual rankings. This is a very even football game. and you look at the way that this game is going to be played, and the market is telling you this game is going to be played to the under, 47-45, at some books from 49-45. So this has been aggressively played to the under here today between two teams that, again, have played 19 times. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Oh, see, Drew Aller's having a fun time. Riley Leonard. Marcus Freeman looks very angry in that photo, by the way. Franklin looks like Franklin. By the way, so those are the opening numbers, as you see on the left side of your screen. Good work by our crew. Was that you, McCormick? Yeah, I wanted to make sure. I didn't want to leave Caden out if Caden was the one who happened to do that graphic. But shout out to McCormick, who you'll see on this desk in 6 hours from now, by the way. So, a 1.5 move, 2-point move on the total. Now, I can be convinced on both sides here in this game. I can see the argument on everything here. Now, the biggest thing more than anything in this game is Abdul Carter. Now, in the NFL, it is very rare that even as good as TJ Watt is, even as good as Myles Garrett is, even as good as Pat Surtain II is in that Denver secondary, he's probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year. As good as these modern-day defensive players are, Chris and Vinny have talked about that Watt is worth something to the point spread. You're not moving it more than at least in my mind, a point at most, half a point on any sort of defensive player. Don't worry, we'll get to the Steelers later in the show. Abdul Carter, to me, even though it looks like he is going to be playing in this game, James Franklin yesterday saying we expect to have Abdul in the lineup tonight. He said that yesterday, so make it tomorrow. You get what I'm saying. You saw the difference when Abdul Carter went out of that Fiesta Bowl against Boise State. Now, I'm not saying Penn State's defense goes from a high-end defense to a laughingstock. Of course not. They're still a very good, legit top 10, 15 defense in the country. But without Carter, they go from having a guy who is completely unblockable. There you go. In that last game, of course, Penn State covered and the game went under. You go from an unblockable force to, again, they have depth. They have good players on that defense, but no one is unblockable as Abdul Carter is. And you saw when he was in the game against Boise State that Boise State had no chance of blocking him before he hurt himself. And Notre Dame, look, I thought Notre Dame against Michael Williams, who is also another top-tier prospect in this year's draft, the edge rusher from Georgia, Notre Dame did pretty well against him, all things considered. So if you're looking in a scenario here, by the way, Michael Williams was held to a half a tackle in that game. So Notre Dame did a great job on Williams. And even if Carter is playing in this game, he's not going to be 100% healthy, which makes this pretty difficult for me to justify a bet on Penn State. Now, look, Aller is the better traditional quarterback in this game. Penn State, especially with Jeremiah Love not at 100%, is the better stable of running backs. Receiver-wise, I think they're pretty darn even in the way of skill position players. At the wide receiver position, obviously Tyler Warren at the tight end position is a big advantage to Penn State. And you could argue Tyler Warren actually is the best player in this game other than Abdul Carter, period. You could argue that Penn State has the two best guys. Actually, not an argument. They do have the two best guys in this game. But when we look at this as a whole, I trust Notre Dame's defense as a whole more than Penn State's defense, especially without a 100% healthy Abdul Carter. And I get this total being low. Now, the Penn State total in the Fiesta Bowl was 10 points higher than this, still went under pretty easily. Notre Dame total against Georgia, didn't matter what number you got, you won with ease. This is going to be a grinder, total grinder football game here tonight in Miami. Riley Leonard is probably going to end up in the area of 15 to 20 carries in this game for Notre Dame. I know that's a huge number. But I expect a lot of Riley Leonard on the ground today just because it's the way Notre Dame's going to want to play. They're going to want to basically grind this game down. They know they have the better defense as a whole. By the way, real quick, in the way of rushing yards, Riley Leonard at 50+ here today. You can get 50. Boy, what is DK doing? DK's doing some weird stuff on there. 50+ is -125. If you want the extra yard, it's -120. So that's really what the real number is supposed to be. But I expect a huge Riley Leonard on the ground game for Notre Dame, especially with a Jeremiah Love who is not anywhere near his 100% moniker. By the way, his number is 40+. That just tells you what the books think of what he's going to be tonight in the way of his health. By the way, Leonard at 14 for 80 in the Sugar Bowl. Only had 90 yards passing, by the way, and that was more than enough for Notre Dame to win. Keep in mind, if you look at the box score, Notre Dame didn't have to do much of anything on offense. They only averaged 4 yards per play against Georgia. Remember, it was really the short field after the fumble at the end of the half by Gunnar Stockton and the kick return. That was the difference in the ball game. It was a pretty even game other than those two plays. But I still like the Irish. I like them pre-tournament. No reason to back off. I don't think they're beating Ohio State if they play Ohio State in the national title game, which is what it looks like it's going to be at this point. But you look at this individual game, I expect Notre Dame's defense to do what they did to Georgia. I don't expect a huge game from Aller. Notre Dame just has to slow down the run attack enough. Georgia in that game only had 62 rushing yards in the Sugar Bowl. Now, again, you get messed up in college by the sack totals. Stockton at 10 carries for -23 because of the sacks. But look, they did a good job against Trevor Etienne, only 3.5 yards a pop in that game. So I like Notre Dame. I don't love laying the worst of the number in the way of this total. Would still only bet it under at 45, but tread carefully just because look at the number. Like, again, it was 47. It was as high as 49 in some shops. 4 points in total, especially when we're in the 40s. Huge deal. Be careful on that if we're looking in that front. By the way, real quick, just updating the odds tomorrow night. They're back to 6 on Ohio State. It's been a toggler between 6, 6.5, and 5.5 on tomorrow night's Cotton Bowl. 53 is your total. All I'll tell you is I was really hoping we'd get 7, and then I would take Texas. But it just feels like it, as great as Ohio State has been in just demolition derby against Tennessee and Oregon, it is very hard to justify this number probably being, 4 points more than it would have been a month ago? Not even. It's a lot of points to be moving. And look, in Texas, playing a game in a home state, not a far trip from Austin to Arlington. Again, crowd's still probably going to be at best 65-35 in favor of Texas, but be very careful about laying this number with Ohio State. Now watch the Buckeyes go out and win by 20+. Would not shock me. Again, wouldn't shock me if Ohio State did blow out Texas. They're playing so ridiculously well on offense that it is definitely in play at this point. All right. We'll take a quick break. When we get back, we'll check in with our good friend Danny Burke of Odd Shopper. We'll talk college football. What is Danny like this weekend in the NFL? And also, too, if there's any hockey or NBA on the board for our friend DB here today. When we get back, Sports by the Book here on a Thursday morning.
We have 11 amazing restaurants featuring a wide variety for every price range and appetite. South Point's Garden Buffet has something for everyone at unbeatable prices. Or, if hunger strikes in the middle of the night, join us at Coronado Cafe. The American menu offers breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24 hours a day, plus a Chinese kitchen for authentic Chinese dishes from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. From steak and eggs to wonton soup, it's fast and friendly service 24/7. When you need a quick pick-me-up, you can find it at our state-of-the-art Starbucks just inside the main South Point entrance. Order ahead with the Starbucks app for easy mobile order pickups. Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south-of-the-border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside.
Welcome back in at Sports by the Book here on a Thursday morning. Jeff Parles here. Happy to be with you as always. And now joining us, you saw him a lot during the summer. You've seen him a few times here on this show during this football season. Stochastic, Odd Shopper, where you can find our good friend Danny Burke. And you can find him on the other side of the screen right now. He joins us here from the city of Chicago here on the second Thursday of the year. DB, good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Jeff. Appreciate you having me on as always, my friend.
Danny, let's start with tonight. Fun game. Fun games across the board in this college football playoff. Yeah, I know. Everyone's finding an angle to complain. Quite frankly, though, Danny, I think we ended up with 4 of the 5 best teams. By the end of the year, I don't think Georgia was one of the 5 best teams. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Oregon, got screwed by the committee having to play Ohio State. But you know what? Buckeyes went out there and destroyed them. So no problem with the 4 that we have. And boy, have these been interestingly bet games here so far at the South Point. We start with tonight in the Orange Bowl, which is the bottom of the bracket you see on your screen right now. Notre Dame open 2.5. It's down to 1. This total's now at 45, down from 47. Danny, what are your thoughts here tonight in the Orange Bowl down in Miami?
Yeah, I think my first thought when it comes to looking at how this betting market is shaped out is it's not shocking to see this total get bet down, right? You have 2 prolific defenses. That's been Notre Dame's identity this entire year. And we know the Nittany Lions traditionally have a great defense, but they haven't really needed their defense to step up because of their schedule this season. And I think a lot of what this game comes down to for myself is just that, their schedule. I mean, look, I'll put it out there first. Yes, Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. It's embarrassing. It's disgusting. It's all the adjectives you want to use in the negative connotation that can be attributed to that performance against Northern Illinois. But I think you can currently do this and will continue to be able to do this is look at that game, that loss for Notre Dame and go, that was arguably the best thing for them, right? And it seems crazy to say, but a team needs to deal with adversity throughout the year. And if it's NIU, if it's somebody else, whatever it is, they needed that. And you heard Riley Leonard talk about it in one of the articles about how he was after the game and talking to Marcus Freeman, and Freeman was reiterating the same sentiment. So we have seen a much different Notre Dame team from that point on. And look, I grew up a Notre Dame fan. I understand the heartbreak and just disappointment that comes with rooting for this team every single year they're on a big stage. But something feels different this season, Jeff. I mean, you saw it last week against Georgia. And when the lines first came out, I was appalled with where it was. And I was at that game, Notre Dame against Indiana. Very ugly game. Let's be honest, Indiana wasn't as good as the record indicated. Props to them for getting there. Not really that lethal of a team, but still a big win for Notre Dame considering everything surrounding it and the pressure amounting to that spot. And then you have to travel more so in Georgia territory, and you're able to just put a beating on them in the second half and really make those adjustments. And yes, Carson Beck was out, but Carson Beck wasn't that dominant this year. Yes, he would have been the better option in hindsight, but it's not like he was really putting fear into opponents. It's the rest of the team that brings everything together for the Bulldogs. And Notre Dame showed who they were in that spot. With Penn State, look, you lost to Oregon, you lost to Ohio State at home. And yes, Ohio State I still think is the best team in the country right now. And Oregon has showed its flashes in the past despite getting smacked by Ohio State the other week. but I just still refuse to completely buy in on Drew Aller and this Penn State team. I don't know what it is, Jeff. I just can't do it, and I do think Notre Dame is for real this year. The betting market moving against Notre Dame as of this moment, a tad bit concerning. I haven't placed any wager just yet, but I think I might get there with the Fighting Irish. I heard you talking about it a little bit too, but man, I'm just not sold on Eller. I'm just not completely there on this Penn State team that I don't think has really been battle tested as much as Notre Dame has been. I'm not saying Notre Dame's schedule was insanely tough, but you've had 2 playoff games. You dealt with the major adversity of losing in insanely embarrassing fashion. Yes, you could argue Penn State has with the losses to Oregon and Ohio State, but then you play Boise State and get, that favorable matchup. I don't know. I'm not really a fan of this team.
It's interesting on the Penn State end of things, Danny, and we'll just go there because I mentioned this in the opening. I'm a little bit surprised that the market has played it this way. Yeah, I understand Notre Dame has injuries as well. Jeremiah Love is not 100% defensive injuries as well for the Irish. But Abdul Carter's on the Penn State side. Even if he goes tonight, he's not going to be 100%, Danny. And we saw, look, right. He completely took over. The SMU game was a mess from SMU's perspective, but Carter dominated that game. He dominated early against Boise State, then got hurt, and then that's when Boise State almost got back into the ball game. If it wasn't for that illegal hands to the face penalty, we have a 3-point game with 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. Who knows? Maybe we're talking about Notre Dame and Boise State in this game instead. But Danny, I'm just surprised that the market has played it like this when Penn State's best player, even if he is able to go today, is going to be nowhere near 100%.
Absolutely, Jeff. And you mentioned Notre Dame dealing with some injuries too, and that is absolutely a concern and probably the reason that I haven't already pulled the trigger on the side of the Fighting Irish. But yeah, I think this injury on the side of the Nittany Lions may prove to be more impactful. And you're right, I didn't even mention the SMU game, but yeah, I mean, that game, you just kind of completely throw that one out there. And you're right, if one or two things went, and we could play ifs and buts all day long, but if Penn State's as good as the market's indicating or as their record is indicating and all this and all that, it really shouldn't have been that close with Boise State. They really should have had a stronghold on that game from the start if this is where the line should be in this spot, in my opinion, at least. And look, I'm not trying to discredit Boise State. Very tough team, very good team. But, at the end of the day, Boise State is Boise State, and they didn't play that tough of a schedule. And they're in a different conference where they weren't as tested as a team like Penn State should have been and should have been better prepared in that spot. So I just have a lot of questions about Penn State's team, where Notre Dame, to at least a certain extent in this specific matchup, has answered those questions for my handicap.
Down on Notre Dame, like I told you, Danny. I just the Irish again. I have the tickets pre-tournament, 12-1, dating
That's
before.
Right, I remember you talking about that.
Still there. I mean,
let's go.
Honestly, I might go back and take a little bit of more as well, but. There's no reason for me to change on this, but I will ask you though, Danny, in the way of these college games, obviously we know you're a big NFL prop better, and we'll get into those a little bit later. But how do you bet the college props the same sort of way as the NFL, especially in these big games, or do you lay off because the markets are not quite the same as the NFL ones?
Yeah, more so the latter, Jeff. I mean, if our projections that we have at OddsShopper signal a good bet, a good EV play in terms of college football, then I'll get involved. Aside from that, I don't go too crazy. Occasionally, because with college football, yes, I'm a big fan, but I'm not insanely ingrained into it, meaning that I know all the personnel and all these game plans and philosophies like a lot of us do watching the NFL. It's a lot easier than as opposed to all of these teams throughout the country in college football. So aside from that, I'll really only be doing it with a team that I follow religiously, which is my Nebraska Cornhuskers, as you can see up this side of the background. But yeah, and that's really the only team that I'll go and, really try to seek something every single week. Otherwise, yeah, kind of like you said, I mean, it's a market that's slowly growing and slowly giving us more opportunities. But with the finite amount that we can bet, the market tends to shape out pretty well based on our projections that we have and the props that we have available, though limited, and will be hopefully expanding in the future. But yeah, so nothing too wild, especially during the playoffs as of now, Jeff.
Danny, the other semifinal, Ohio State, Texas tomorrow night in Dallas, the Dallas area, I should say Arlington technically, at the Jerry Dome. 6 right now in Ohio State. Man, I'm looking for reasons to take the points with Texas, but I really was hoping to see that 7 by the time that we had gotten around to it. We're not going to see it. It peaked at 6.5 on this game. But I can't really justify laying 6 with Ohio State. Even though if you told me if Ohio State went out there and bludgeoned them, I wouldn't be overly surprised.
I couldn't agree more with you. It's hilarious. I mean, look at it from a public perspective, right? I mean, you still have this trepidation, I feel like, with fully trusting Texas because they haven't really lived up to the hype in a lot of these big games throughout the regular season. Yes, they've gotten up to this point. So to that extent, they've lived up to the hype, but it hasn't been clean. It hasn't been seamless in really any game, especially in their last. But I'm with you here. I mean, you're buying incredibly high on Ohio State right now in terms of the market because of what we've seen the last 2 weeks. And when I was with you a couple weeks ago, I was like, Ohio State's my team. I mean, the narrative sets up perfectly for them to win that first game and then to have the revenge spot against Oregon and then to get to the championship after what had happened from them getting an embarrassing loss at home against your arch rival, the Michigan Wolverines. So I still like Ohio State to win this game. But yeah, if we're looking at the numbers strictly, you're getting the worst of it if you want to lay the points with the Buckeyes. While that being said, yes, I mean, Ohio State, I still believe is the best team. So if they did go out there and rout them, no, it wouldn't surprise us. But purely from a numbers standpoint, the appeal has to be on the side of Texas, whose defense I do think can contain Ohio State enough to keep this within the number. And Texas's offense, man, you just got to hope for something explosive from them every once in a while to keep this thing close, because we know Ohio State can dial it up whenever, and it's only a matter of time before that Longhorns defense breaks. But yeah, I think Ohio State wins. If I had to, I would take the points with Texas. I kind of like the under in this game too, Jeff. I know it's moved a little bit, so I'm going to wait and see where the market ends up shaping out to be. But I think it's going to be a lower scoring affair here.
These are both really good defenses, which Texas, to me, I've already said this, Texas's front four, I think, is the best in the country. Ohio State's defense is awesome. It's kind of been kind of forgotten because just the offensive explosion these first 2 playoff games. Ohio State's defense has been arguably the best defense in the country all year. Mm-hmm. So, again, it's a pretty rough combination of things when you end up in a scenario where Ohio State ends up getting this 8 seed, ends up getting, again, blasting Tennessee, blasting through Oregon. But look, we'll see how this all plays out over the next few days. I'm staying off, like you said, Danny. That total, I do agree with. Kind of like the under. Go wait in game, see if we can get a better number in game on that more so than anything. All right, Danny, a few more minutes here. To the NFL side of things, the AFC playoffs, real quick, starting with the 2 Saturday games. The Houston annual game on the Saturday afternoon against the Chargers is 2.5 behind us. All I'll say is at 2.5, I would lay the Chargers. But at 3, I don't think I'd go higher on that. The second game is where I'm more intrigued on, Danny, because Zay Flowers, we're not going to see him more likely than not on Saturday. This touched 10 and went back to 9.5. I know Pittsburgh's looked awful the last 4 weeks. 4 straight losses. Offense has gone into a shell. But, Danny, third crack at Baltimore. Baltimore's had problems in the playoffs in the Jackson era. I'm not saying Pittsburgh's going to win the game outright, but, boy, that is a lot of points to be getting with a third crack at an opponent in a division familiarity. It feels like a lot, but with that said, I can't really quibble with why the number is why it is there, Danny.
I know. These 2 Saturday games are killing me. I mean, that Chargers one to start with on paper, Los Angeles completely seems like the right side, especially under the key number of 3. But we've seen the Chargers do Chargers things in the past. Despite Harbaugh being a competent coach in the mix, I'm still just all over the place there. And similarly here with this AFC North matchup, I mean, you're right. You look at this number and you go 3 times. How would you be laying that much with Baltimore, with a quarterback and a team that in his tenure for Lamar Jackson, as you noted, have been unreliable in the postseason. And now you want us to lay almost double digits with them against the Pittsburgh Steelers, somewhat from their division. It seems ridiculous. And also a very important thing that you noted as well was Zay Flowers in that injury. That is going to be crucial. Now, it's great for Baltimore that they've really included Mark Andrews a lot more in the latter half of the season. He went from being non-existent to now going back to the Mark Andrews of old. And now him and Isaiah Likely have really flipped positions. So you also got to ask yourself, I mean, how much can you rely on Derrick Henry in this game? More so, I guess the question would be, how much can you rely on this Pittsburgh defense slowing down Derrick Henry? Because it looks like Henry never slows down. Even if you do emphasize Henry in this game, a lot of times when you're really putting that focus on the ground effort, it's not something that would direct you toward laying such a big spread, because if you're running the ball more, as long as you can contain Henry well enough, that's going to chew up a lot of the clock, spend some time, meaning it's not going to go quick and you're not going to score as quickly, as rapidly, thus keeping this thing closer. So all of that factored in, and with the familiarity and what have you, yeah, I mean, I would only look to take the points. But Jeff, truth be told, I don't know if I'm going to wager in this game pre-flop, because again, like, you're just looking at this market and going, what am I missing? And yes, we get it. The Ravens are the better team, and the Steelers may have overperformed. A lot of times they do with Tomlin as their coach, but at some point you got to respect that. So, man, this thing is just driving me crazy with this matchup.
Danny, we'll hold off on the Monday night game. Of course, everything that's going on in Los Angeles, the horrible wildfires, thoughts with everyone who was impacted by the multiple fires in L.A. Right now, that game's sitting at a pick. That game also may be moved to Phoenix, the Phoenix area, so we'll hold off on anything on the Vikings-Rams game. So let's go to the Sunday games. Danny, 3 games, Denver, Buffalo. Buffalo currently 9 here at the South Point. Green Bay at Philly. Philly currently 4.5-point favorites behind me. And then the Bucks and the Commanders. Tampa currently a 3-point favorite against Washington as we cycle through on the bottom. Pick is yours. Which one of these games intrigues you the most here on this Sunday slate of NFL games?
Yeah, let's start with the Eagles and Packers. And I took a little piece of this earlier in the week because I thought it was a good spot with the, a little bit over 3. But now at 4.5, I can't really go as crazy about it, right? If it comes back down to 4, if you have a 4 available, I would look at the side of Philadelphia here. And Philly was my pick before the season to win the Super Bowl. And I feel even better about him. I don't feel great about Jalen Hurts and his potential injury and what impact that may have. I also don't feel necessarily great about Sirianni and all the circus act that we've seen on the sideline. But despite Sirianni's ridiculousness there, this team has overcome a lot and improved and has proved that they are arguably one of the best defenses in the NFL and have enough weaponry offensively to compete with the best of them and get over the best of them and kind of put Sirianni's BS aside. So I think that's enough to at least guide them through the NFC. And again, I'm feeling really good about my Super Bowl ticket on Philadelphia, feeling really good about them against the Packers, a team that I have just been not buying in on whatsoever. And it's not a Bears fan speaking. I promise it's objective. And to be fair, I have gotten burned by fading the Packers a couple of times. The one I can at least remember most recently was that game against the Seahawks, and Geno Smith went out, but I had taken Seattle +3 in that game, thinking that the Packers would fall, and they haven't. But look what they've done against teams with above 500 records. They haven't done anything. They can't beat those teams. Jordan Love has looked like the quarterback that a lot of people feared he would be if you're a Packers fan, and that's very average. Yeah, he'll get bailed out occasionally from chucking it up, and one of his receivers makes a good play, and credit to him. He can get a lot of those penalties like Rodgers used to, drawing the offsides and getting the free plays and bailouts and here and that and that. That's a bit of the Bears fan talking with it, but still, the numbers back it up as well that he has just been really inaccurate this year. EPA, success rate, all of those things. He's not been a great quarterback, and they're dealing with injuries as well, Jeff. And their defense, especially against the run, they have been very susceptible. And we're going to see Saquon Barkley take advantage of that, especially after taking the week off last week. That is going to prove to boost them a lot on the offensive side. I think the Packers are going to struggle against the Philadelphia Eagles defense. Like I mentioned, one that's been one of the best in the NFL. So if you get it at 4, Love Philadelphia. Like that play a lot. The other one that I feel very strongly about as of this morning, honestly, that I really kind of came to terms with it is the Buccaneers laying 3 against the Commanders. I can't imagine that this number moves off that in our favor of getting to 2.5. But look, you have the experience here with Baker and the Bucs, right? I mean, we see rookie quarterbacks falter a lot in the postseason. And Tampa Bay's defense, I get it, there's issues there, but I would argue there's more issues with Washington's defense. There's more issues with Washington as a whole, a team that is scraped by in a lot of games. And yes, Jaden Daniels has been terrific in a lot of spots, but then we saw him really regress and fall back to what his expectations should have been in the second half of this season. I'm not buying Washington. I am buying Tampa Bay. Their defense will make it ugly, but Baker in that offense is much better, much more experienced and programmed to win this type of game in the postseason. So I would lay 3 with Tampa Bay in that spot.
You and I are oppo on that game, my friend. I took the 3.5 with Washington, but hey, look, different bet at 3 and 3.5. I also love the over in that game. I don't see how either of those defenses get many stops.
Agreed.
In that one, Philly Green Bay is such an interesting game. Now that it looks like Jalen Hurts is going to play, I think the Eagles are probably safe to win the game, but boy, I wouldn't lay more than the 4 that you laid earlier in the week, Danny. So job well done on that. All right, Danny, before we go, I just want to ask you real quick, NBA-wise, Cavs and Thunder played a heck of a game last night, the 2 best teams in the NBA. I'll just ask you on the Cleveland end of things, because you look up for people who haven't been paying attention, and the Cavs are 32-4, which is just outrageous. And 2 of those losses came against the Hawks, no less, because of course they did. But Danny, do we have to treat the Cavs as elite as that record shows us, or is this just, all right, they're a product of an NBA regular season at this point where it only matters if you end up just making it into that top 6 in both conferences?
You know, it's funny, Jeff. I was a year too early on this Cavaliers squad because last year I had taken them to come out of the Eastern Conference and with essentially the same team, right? And you had Donovan Mitchell there. You had the 2 big bodies of Mobley and Jared Allen, who are very great and a big reason why they were able to win last night against the Thunder. I mean, Mobley had 21, Allen had 25. If they can consistently, realistically, they're not going to get to that point every night, but get around that realm, yeah, they're going to be one of the toughest teams to overcome, at least in the regular season. Now, through the playoffs, would I still completely trust them over like the Boston Celtics? No, I wouldn't. But aside from them, yeah, I mean, the Cavs are the next best team. I mean, the Knicks still have a lot of question marks, in my opinion. The Bucks would really be the next team. I'd still put the Bucks above the Knicks just because what Giannis can bring to the floor and, you know, that particular matchup against Cleveland. But yeah, I mean, this team is legit. They should win, you know, at least the first round this time around. And man, I mean, they're fun to watch regardless of what ends up happening in the playoffs, but they probably got to add at least one more piece, in my opinion, to really have confidence of getting through the Eastern Conference. But yeah, for sure, Jeff, they are a threat. Again, I'm a little salty that I was a year too early on them. This is what I was hoping they'd be playing like last year. And if they can stay healthy and keep it going and maybe add that one more piece, then they are set up perfectly for success out of a relatively weaker Eastern Conference. So it's going to be fun to see what they do. But yeah, I mean, Donovan Mitchell's been great, and he didn't even have to be that great last night. That's also the other threat. The other guys can come up in that starting 5, then you can take some of that pressure away from Mitchell, which is what happened last evening.
By the way, Danny, real quick before we let you go, Notre Dame apparently dealing with a flu outbreak. So that more so than anything probably is what the number has been moving on more than anything. But Tyler Horka of On3 reporting that it is sounds like it's mostly backups and special teams players. So
they had some fun last night, I guess.
I mean, the flu bug's no joke right now. It's been bad around everywhere. I know, especially your neck of the woods has been pretty bad, Danny. So, so there we go. We'll keep you updated if there's more on that through the next few hours, of course, when we're back on Football Frenzy at 3:00. Danny Burke, everyone, Odd Shopper, Stochastic, Danny Burke 5 on the tweets. Always love having you on, buddy. We'll catch up again soon.
Likewise, Jeff. Appreciate you. Take care, buddy.
Of course. Coming up next, we'll take a quick break. Tom Viola of Unabated. We'll see what those numbers pop for Tommy V when we get back here on Sports by the Book here on a Thursday morning.
Get ready to laugh with Punchlines with Frank Nicotero. Join Frank and his team of featured guests for your daily dose of comedy.
Reno, the Pittsburgh of the West.
Poison.
Yeah.
Poison.
Sports.
F for Falcons, Alex. We were talking Derek Carr for MVP after 2 games. Okay, me. I was.
And the funniest social media posts.
People want to show off their food. Boom. Wiener on a guy's shoulder. It's the dark tones. We bleed blue.
It's your one-stop spot for great laughs and a good time. Find us on YouTube at Punchlines FN. And join the chat live weekdays at noon Pacific for the ultimate blend of jokes, sports, and viral fun.
We have 11 amazing restaurants featuring a wide variety for every price range and appetite. South Point's Garden Buffet has something for everyone at unbeatable prices. Or if hunger strikes in the middle of the night, join us at Coronado Cafe. The American menu offers breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24 hours a day, plus a Chinese kitchen for authentic Chinese dishes from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. From steak and eggs to wonton soup, it's fast and friendly service 24/7. When you need a quick pick-me-up, you can find it at our state-of-the-art Starbucks just inside the main South Point entrance. Order ahead with the Starbucks app for easy mobile order pickups. Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south of the border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book on a Thursday morning. Happy to be with you. A big thanks to our good friend Danny Burke. And now we bring in another one of our good friends, Tom Viola of Unabated Sports, of course, one of the best gambling sites there is. There's the wave from our good friend Tom on the other side of the screen. TV, good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Jeff. It's great to be on with you on a nice Thursday here. Awfully windy around, though.
You know what I'm going to tell you? The best part, Tom, of today is that we don't have to talk about the 2024 Jets anymore.
It's beautiful.
That's the best part of it.
The pain has ended.
Yeah,
the JETS just end the season. It has come and gone. We can relax.
Very good, Ryan. Very good. With our good friend Eric Collins on that great play in the USC Maryland game from Fox. Tom, I want to get these college football games. Of course, your thoughts on the NFL this weekend, and then I just want to ask you some other things as well. But starting with tonight, we get the report that Notre Dame's dealing with a flu outbreak in the locker room right now. The number hasn't moved, so obviously this was known by bettors at least a little bit, banging this down from 2.5 to 1. Of course, on the Penn State side, the Abdul Carter injury still means a lot. James Franklin, we didn't even mention this earlier. Of course, this is a spot James Franklin's never been in, a spot that this program has not been in a very long time. Honestly, neither of these programs have been in this spot other than Notre Dame just getting thrashed in that BCS title game by Alabama with Manti Te'o over a decade ago. But boy, this is for Penn State. Notre Dame with the flu bug. Yeah, Abdul Carter is not 100%, but this now is starting to feel like, all right, well, if you're Penn State, accidentally making a national championship game is a nice thing to fall into, right, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, that would be incredible for them. I am seeing Sport Trade has moved this number, although they have swapped favorites now, and they have Notre Dame as a 1-point underdog.
Okay.
But most of the market is still holding pretty steady at 1.5 right now. I don't know. It depends on how much you believe the reports that they're saying, oh, it's only backups. It's no one serious that's got the flu bug. I'll tell you, if they win this game, maybe fading them next week when those starters start to get hit, because it's going to go around. So that's something that I'm more looking ahead to for the championship, if they're going to be healthy or not. Because if this starts with the backups, it's not going to end there. I guarantee you that.
Well, I will say this, though, Tom, and you just brought up a very interesting point. If Notre Dame does win tonight, obviously, I mean, this flu bug that's been going on basically everywhere, it feels like if you've avoided it so far, you've been relatively blessed, in all honesty. But, boy, I mean, this could be one of those where if you want to go bet one of those exactas of Ohio State over Notre Dame or Texas even over Notre Dame, you might be getting a better number than you probably maybe deserve, especially right now. You look at those Horns numbers, they're bloated numbers across the board on the Texas side. I mean, geez, honestly, Notre Dame 13-1 over Texas actually looks pretty good too on that side. But look, you could take some numbers right now. I mean, obviously, Ohio State is not going to be +2. I mean, of Ohio State over Notre Dame, you do the Ohio State Notre Dame parlay, it pays out similar to that. But still, you could bet those markets if you wanted to right now.
Yeah, I mean, one nice thing about the South Point Sportsbook, you don't have to worry about doing the math on, should I take this future or should I parlay these two teams together? Because, those numbers are going to be coming right around close to each other because, hey, you got a good bookmaking operation going on back there.
So, Tom, just looking at this total real quick, I do want to ask you especially potentially with the illnesses as well. I mean, this has already been banged down. Open 47 behind us. Some books even had it at 49. I don't know what that was all about, but 45, basically 45 and a half out there. I still like this game under, even before the reports, even with the number getting banged to the under here. But we're getting to the point where it's like, all right, 45 is a pretty key number. Any sort of football, 24-21, especially the game that's lined 1. Is this too low to go under here now, Tom, at 45?
Yeah, I think that if you were trying to bet this total, you missed the market. If it gets to 44.5, I'm looking to take an over. But sometimes you miss. And when we're talking about things on Thursday morning when the game is tonight, like this number has been hammered into shape for a reason at this point. We've had how long to bet it now? More than a week. And this is where it should be. I'm not interested in taking it at this point.
Tom, to the other game tomorrow, Ohio State taking on Texas 6 with the Buckeyes. Just your thoughts on this one. I was waiting for a 7, but we're obviously not going to get there here in this one.
No, absolutely no shot. I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment with how good Ohio State looked against Oregon, but they're the better team here. There's a reason that they're the favorite to win the whole thing. And the question is, do you really trust Texas? I feel like they're a 14-point third quarter deficit away from putting Arch Manning in a game, which granted would probably help them come back and win something. But I feel like you got a quarterback in Quinn Ewers that's going to be on a shorter leash here if they get desperate towards the end of a game and say, hey, you know what, we need to make something happen. You could see the Jalen Hurts Tua Tagovailoa situation happen here. But this Ohio State team just looks really good. I think that people were a little bit just jaded by their loss to Michigan, but that's one of those games. You hate the cliche of throw out the records, but that's what it is in that game. And they have very clearly turned it around and said, okay, well, maybe we should use our NFL wide receiver talent that we have littering this team and not just try and ground and pound the football. And it's working. And this is a team that's been there before. Like they're one of the best teams in the country. And I just don't see them losing this game. And I really don't think Texas is quite as good as some people think they are. There's a reason they're a 6-point dog in this game. I think it could get out of hand, quite frankly. And underneath a touchdown, I'm not shying away from laying the 6.
Tom, to the NFL side of things, I want to ask you your thoughts. With Danny and I talked on this very briefly, but the Chargers and the Texans, again, the Texans' annual tradition, 4:30 Eastern Saturday playoff appearance. I see 2.5 behind us, a flat 2.5 on the Chargers. Look, I don't know how I can pass that up. Can you talk me out of this? I know the Texans have home field, but boy, this just feels like a bad matchup for Houston, especially with the fact that the Chargers defense has been even better away from Los Angeles than it has been at home this year.
Oh, listen, go and grab the 2.5 right now, because literally as we're speaking, the line is moving to 3 at a ton of shops. That 2.5 isn't going to be there much longer at all. This is your last chance to go get it. And I think that you absolutely should be going to get it. I like the Chargers here. I'm literally watching it just pull off the board. DraftKings just went to 3. Sport Trades at 3. Profits at 3. Bet Rivers is at 3. ESPN's at 3. Circa's at 3. Everybody's at 3. You can still find a couple 2.5s out there. Get down to South Point. Get it before it's gone. But yeah, this line is moving, and the Chargers look good. The Texans do not, and the Texans have just been limping into this postseason. You're banged up at the receiver position. I don't think this is the year for the Texans. Granted, they made it this far, but they play in the AFC South. They had the division locked up with an 8-7 record, and they already had the division locked up. There was a big sophomore slump for C.J. Stroud this year, and I really like what Jim Harbaugh has been able to do with this Chargers team. I think that this is a spot where I'm going with the public and with the chalk, but I like the Chargers when you're getting the 2.5 because that number is rapidly going away.
Tom, I want to go to the Sunday early game with the Broncos and the Bills. We're 9 behind us. There's a bunch of 8.5. By the way, there's your playoff bracket. Of course, Kansas City and the Lions with the number 1 seed. Boy, imagine telling us, Tom, when we were freshmen in college or sophomores in college, yeah, when you've been out of college for 10 years, the 1 seeds are going to be the Chiefs and the Lions. Oh, and by the way, Kansas City will have won 3 Super Bowls in the previous 5 years. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense going back 15 years. But the Bills and the Broncos here. Broncos, first playoff appearance since 2015, amazingly enough. We're at 9 here, 47 on the total. I'm struggling on this one, Tom. I'm not quite sure what to do with this game.
It is quite wild. When I saw the stat, the Broncos have not been to the playoffs since winning the Super Bowl in that final Peyton Manning game. Absolutely absurd. Yeah, 9 feels like it's too much. I was looking at this morning. I got to play some confidence pools against the spread that I'm looking to make some picks in. And 9 points is a lot, especially in an NFL game. And the Bills have looked every bit the part of a juggernaut team so far. But this Broncos team has been frisky all season. I don't really love laying. On principle, it's very difficult for me to lay 9 points at all, especially in a playoff game, especially when the Broncos have been a good defensive team. They've been good at shortening some of these games. Bo Nix has been playing well. The Bills defense, it's good. I don't think that they're particularly one of the top units, but I think that Bo Nix is going to be able to move the ball. I think the Broncos are going to be able to keep up in this game. It's going to come down to the turnovers. Can you make the rookie quarterback turn the ball over? And that if Bo Nix can play a clean game, I think that the Broncos can stay within 9 points here. I think that that's very reasonable. But if the Bills are able to force some of the turnovers here, I like the way that this could go the other way. It's one that I'm staying away from as far as what I'm trying to play pre-flop. Maybe I'll dive in on a live market, but if I had to pick gun to my head, I'm not laying 9 points. I'll take the Broncos plus 9.
One more NFL game I want to hit with you, and that's the premium game in the afternoon on Sunday, Philadelphia and Green Bay. It looks like Jalen Hurts is going to be ready to go. Jordan Love, again, left the game last week. It looks like he'll be fully functional as well in this one. It opened 4. We're as high as 5 at some shops. It's 4.5 behind us with a total of 45. Philadelphia weather has been really just a collection of no one has a grasp of exactly what's going to happen here. Right now, there is a potential for snow showers during the game. You're looking at about 14-mile-an-hour winds. These two teams met in week 1 in Brazil. It was a high-scoring game. You can't really take much from that. It's a glorified preseason game more so than anything. But what are your thoughts?
So far ago now.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, week 1 of the NFL season feels like it happened in 2019. 45 on the total, down from 46, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on Jalen Hurts and how healthy he is. Sounds like he's going to play. Sounds like he's out of concussion protocol. So, I mean, 2 weeks, I'm not putting that much stock into him still being hurt here. The Eagles are a great team. I don't think that the Packers are quite all there for this season. Losing Christian Watson does hurt. I can't remember, Jeff, if it was you or if it was someone else that I was arguing with about this who was saying, well, they might actually be a better offense without Christian Watson. I don't agree with that. I think that they get very horizontal very quickly without him stretching the field and being that vertical passing threat. I'm taking Philly minus the 4.5 here. I think that they win this game by a touchdown.
Tom, before we go, I just want to throw something at you that you and I normally don't talk a lot of NBA, but I just want to ask you because, of course, one of the great features over at Unabated now, if you sign up, you got some fun stuff over there with NBA props going on, Tom.
Yeah, we do. Unabated's got a fantastic NBA props team. We've got Justin Fan, John Rodabaugh, and SBK, Stephen Byron Keach, and they have been putting in absolute work for people so far this season. The prop game has been excellent. And, man, it's just three guys who really know what they're doing when it comes to making these NBA projections. They do 3 shows a week breaking down the big slates and telling you, hey, this is what we're looking at. These are the key injuries we're looking at, and these are the guys that we're waiting on news for still. And I'll tell you, yesterday, if you were a part of Unabated, you got a great scoop because Justin Fan beat everybody to the market with the news that Jokic was going to be out. You had a solid 2 minutes to get some bets down before that game, before that news broke for everyone else, and the line started moving. So come join the fun. Unabated is phenomenal. We've got some great tools for you to help you be a profitable bettor, and we've got a great team in place that really knows what they're doing, and it is here to win.
Tom Viola, everyone, Unabated Sports TV at work on the tweets. As always, Tom, pleasure as always. We'll catch up again soon.
Sounds great, man. Great seeing you.
Good seeing you as always. By the way, quickly in the chat, Bob Custer, JR at the ballpark, Dean Hilt's in there, Alex is in there. All right. And Vince in the chat right now. Always a pleasure. Always love hearing from all of you here on the shows. All right, let's go to the college hoops side of things before we get out of here. Hitting 3 Big Ten games on the way out, and we start in Piscataway tonight. Rutgers. Dylan Harper was only able to play a half in their last time out with the flu. Rutgers 2.5 against Purdue. Rutgers has been one of the bigger disappointments in college basketball. Of course, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, both projected top 5 picks. Rutgers well on their way to missing the NCAA tournament. But if Harper is able to give enough here tonight, I do like the Scarlet Knights. This is a lean at the moment. I want to see how high this number gets before hopping in on here. I'm really looking for a 3 or about plus 130 on the money line for Rutgers, but we are going to be looking for that. Let's see how the market plays itself out through the day. Going to Ohio State and Oregon. Yes, we saw this on the gridiron. Now it's on the hardwood. And I like the Ducks to get the revenge on the Buckeyes here. The problem is the market agrees with me on this. It got as high as 5 at one shop, and I was come back down the ladder to the opener at 3. Let's see if we can get back higher again. I like this at 5 for sure. Took a little bit of it, but won't give it away as an official play because of the different number now. If you get back to 4.5, I would play Oregon, and I don't mind the money line sprinkle as well on the Ducks here tonight in Columbus. And then the last one in the Big Ten, Michigan State hosts Washington. Boy, I'm not a huge fan of laying this lumber, but I think you're okay with it here tonight. This Washington team, if you just look at it, they just coming off a game where they played Illinois pretty tough in the Pacific Northwest up in Seattle at Alaska Airlines Arena. They beat Maryland. They lost the 2 games against their former Pac-12 brethren. But this Sparty team, I just think, is much better when it's all said and done. And I think Washington's going to struggle to score in this game. Don't mind this under either at 146 either. Weird correlation here with under and favored, but that would be the leans in that game for me on that one. And then to hockey, real quick before we get out of here on a Thursday morning, we get the battle of the Tri-State Devils, minus 160 favorites at MSG tonight with a total of 6. We're going over that 6. Don't expect much on the, well, actually, you're at 6.5 right now. There are still some 6s available. You're at 6.5 behind us. Find the 6, even if it's just minus 130. I would still go over that. Be very careful if you get a 6.5 on that front. Tampa Bay hosting Boston. Right now, the Lightning are minus 160 favorites. That total down to 6 right now on this one. It would be only a lean to the favorite here, slightly in at minus 160 on Tampa. And then the last one, the game just down the road from us, due north, VGK hosting the Islanders, minus 170 on the Knights, total of 6. We are going under the 6 in that one. So 3, how about that? Totals. Rare total appearances for me here. This is the one most solid tonight for me of the hockey. So we'll go under 6 as the official hockey play tonight with the Islanders and the Vegas Golden Knights. All right. That's what we got for you here today. We're back in, 5 hours? Yeah, we can do math, right? 5 hours. Myself, Ryan McCormick, on Football Frenzy. Even more football than we talked about here today. Brian's NFL thoughts. We get of our quarterback power rankings for the NFL playoffs, our team power rankings for the NFL playoffs, and, of course, a full breakdown of Penn State and Notre Dame tonight in the Orange Bowl. We'll see you again at 3 right here on the channel. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again next time. Sports by the Book.